Welcome to the Content Champion podcast. We provide the training and tools to help you become a content marketing champion in your online business. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hi guys, welcome to the Content Champion podcast. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I've got a great interview with expert money site builder John Haver of Authority Website Income, which I've recorded as part of the launch of my exciting new project, the Authority Content Experiment, or ACE for short, where you can watch over my shoulder as I build a money-making niche site from scratch. Now, we'll get into John's interview later, but first I'll fill you in on the background behind the project. So before I started Content Champion, I built a suite of niche sites that mainly sold affiliate and Amazon style products, and that combined to earn me a pretty decent income as well as my copywriting and content marketing client work. Now, only 2 of these Amazon sites survived the major Google changes a few years ago, and I wound them all up when I started my podcast because, quite frankly, I just had too much to do. But in truth, I missed the challenge of creating and promoting website assets like these, and I wanted to build another one basically. So rather than just going off and putting another site up in private, I thought I'd do it all totally transparently from start to finish and document my successes and failures on this blog, because I know that kind of approach is popular. So in this context, it will hopefully be a great learning experience for all of us. Now, for the last few years, I've been following some truly superb internet marketers who are doing great things with their content-based business models and authority sites. I'm just going to drop a few names here because there's some great sites to go and learn from as well. We're talking Gail Breton at Authority Hacker, Pat Flynn at Smart Passive Income, John Dykstra at Fat Stacks Blog, and Spencer Hawes at Niche Pursuits. Also, there's Matt Wolf at Multiply Authority, Stuart Walker at Niche Hacks, Chris Lee at Rank XL, and John Haver himself at Authority Website Income. And I know all these guys are fantastic at what they do because I've bought a product from all of them. Now, if you go and look at their sites and what they're actually doing, some of the authority sites these guys have built and the revenue they've generated from them will just provide a real source of inspiration to you. They inspire me and thousands of other people. And, I'd love to get back on the horse in that context with my own authority site and see what's working with this business model now in 2016 and beyond. I also want to make sure the site I build is outside of the online marketing stroke sort of content marketing niche as Content Champion is, because I want to show you it can be done in other sectors too. It's one of the things I most commonly get asked: do content marketing strategies and tactics work outside of the online marketing niche? Well, of course they do, and hopefully we can illustrate that with this project. Now, to launch this whole initiative, as mentioned, I'm delighted to host expert money site builder John Haver of Authority Website Income on this episode of the podcast. John pulled in over $35,000 in net income from his authority websites at the time of recording, April 2016. So he certainly knows what he's talking about, and he's very kindly agreed to partner with me and help me get this exciting and very interesting experiment underway. So yeah, let's get the show on the road with an official announcement. So this is my introduction to the Authority Content Experiment, ACE for short. This is the first ACE podcast and post where I research, build and promote a money-making niche site from scratch and document the whole process so you can follow along. Now, I'll set out the goals and rules of the project in a minute, but first, a quick note on how all this will pan out. I'm still planning to release my interviews with top content marketing professionals, so these shows will go out now twice a month. In between these will be regular twice monthly updates on the ACE project in the form of a podcast, together with additional resources on the blog that you'll need to go and look at so you can follow the project in full. Now, I'm going to be fully transparent about everything I do at all times, and I'll release the domain publicly when 20 posts have been published on the new site. So if you want to get access to the exact website domain when I've published 20 posts, when it goes live to the public, as it were, then you'll have to join my email list. So if you want to follow along and ask questions, me and occasionally John himself will be on hand at various stages of the process to help you out. And you can always access all the information as it's published, both on the podcast and on the blog. There'll be different information on the two, or at the special domain authoritycontentexperiment.com. Now, I'll go on to set out the goals and rules. And then, as I say, there's the scene setting interview to listen to between me and John, which really sets up the whole experiment and goes through how John builds his authority sites that earn him so much money every month. And he'll be coming back in a few weeks or so to discuss his exact process for creating and promoting content and working with outsourcers. Now, John will be helping me build the actual site itself and conduct all the keyword research through his excellent brand builders service. And I'll then take over the project as main content editor and site manager, following his precise techniques. I work with multiple clients on a daily basis. That's my day job. Content Champion is my addition to that. And the podcast is something I work on in my own time as well. So this project is adding to that workload. So I am in the position to be able to outsource this. I have the budget for it. But a lot of the stuff that I do, you will be able to follow along and replicate free of charge. But anyway, let's have a look at these project goals. 1, to set up a high quality authority site in the yoga niche that offers genuine value to readers. 2, to get that site earning $1,000 a month as quickly as possible using ad placements and affiliate links. 3, to build an email list of 1,000 people as quickly as possible. 4, to document the whole process in a completely transparent way so you can learn from my successes and failures. Now, you'll instantly notice 2 things about these goals: that I've already chosen the yoga niche, more on that later, and that I haven't mentioned traffic numbers. Now, the simple answer to this is that I want to measure the success of this project based on revenue. And that figure, combined with the other essential metric of email subscribers, is therefore going to be my focus. But of course, I will report back on all those traffic and engagement and social media stats and figures too as we go along. Now, I chose the yoga niche for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to make that the subject of my next installment of the ACE project. So stay tuned for that. Okay, project rules. Here are the simple rules of this ACE experiment. 1, the site must be built using high quality on-page content and SEO, and nothing can ever compromise this, so audience value always comes first. 2, the site can be promoted by any ethical means, but only, inverted commas, white hat, although I hate that phrase, white hat outreach style links can be built into the site, and we won't be using any PBMs or spammy link building processes. 3, I'll be outsourcing much of the work on my site because I can, but much of what I do, as I've said, can be copied either at low cost or for free. Number 4, if and when the site reaches an income level I'm happy with, it can be sold. Okay, and that's it really, the goals and the project rules. I want to keep things simple, so I'm not going to impose too many restrictions on how we do things, and I'm sure this project will evolve as we go along. But rest assured, I'll keep you fully updated with what happens at every stage. So for now, step 1 is to listen to my podcast with John Haver from Authority Website Income, which will set up the whole experiment. Now, I've got a quick special offer for you as well. The first person to leave a review about this show on iTunes will get an exclusive 10% discount code on any of the Authority site building services over at brandbuilders.io. So without further ado, let's hear from John Haver at Authority Website Income, and let's dive straight into it. Thanks for coming on, John.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Exciting opportunity to jump on and chat with you.
Now, today we're going to talk about the exact stages you use to build Authority affiliate sites that actually make a passive income. But before we get into those steps, could you tell us your backstory, please?
Sure. Yeah. So, by trade, I'm a mechanical engineer. Work a day job in the oil and gas industry. But over the last 6 years or so, I've been very interested in building up building up my online business, and that's taken a few different paths, but primarily it's been focused around building out authority sites and then leveraging those authority sites into other businesses, whether that's a web app, or more recently it's kind of leveraging an authority site into an Amazon FBA business.
And you're really successful with your online business. So when are you going to transition, if you are, between your day job, as it were, and your growing, your more and more successful sort of evening and weekend job, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, both of them, my day job makes me better at my online job, and my online job makes me better at my day job. So, right now I'm heavily focused on, the better I can become, then regardless of what path I ultimately take. And, certainly the online business is very interesting to me. It's just, right now it's getting very close that I am probably losing money going to my day job, but it could be soon.
Well, this is great from our point of view, everyone listening, and my point of view, because we've got someone on in yourself who really knows what they're talking about. And, you're saying you've got a day job, but you don't actually need it because you're so successful online. So you're definitely the guy to be speaking to about building affiliate sites with authority that make a passive income. I'm going to be doing something that I'm going to call the authority content experiment. And I'm going to use one of your services, which we'll link to at the end, called Brand Builders, to help me set up that site. And I've actually chosen a domain in the yoga niche, which we can perhaps base this conversation around. So, sort of on that basis, the first step is picking that niche. And how do you go about this when you do it?
Yeah, so for myself, I mean, for picking the niche, it's very. I've had very systematic ways of doing it in the past, around kind of going in and sort of identifying, my pains, my passions, kind of making a big list of those, and then trying to pick which one, and then doing some keyword research off of that. The more successful way I have found of picking niches that have been successful is identifying whether it's a site or some part of a business that is successful, and then just doing a slight pivot away from that, similar market, but just with a slight pivot. So, something along the lines of, a really popular sort of health site, getting some inspiration from that, but then just doing kind of a small pivot away from that to capture a different market, but leveraging the sort of the validation that business is already successful in a very similar niche.
So basically what you're saying is that just by virtue of there being a site out there, an authority site with that value and with that revenue-making potential and that success already evident, if we're just modelling off that, we're pretty much not guaranteed of success, but we know, because there's that competition there, that we can probably monetize it successfully.
Yeah, exactly. And then certainly, using that as the starting point, but then through, really detailed keyword research, and plus a little bit of kind of brand positioning, or using kind of some amount of a big idea that sort of uniquely positions that authority site into that space. It's a recipe for failure if it's as simple as, here's a successful site trying to do what that successful site did. That's almost a recipe for failure. But if you say, here's a successful site, how am I going to be a little bit different? And how am I going to serve, like what portion of this market is this successful site not serving, and how can I serve it?
Okay, so let's go into that. You mentioned it there, the keyword research and analysing the sort of target audience so we can beat our competition, and then finding a sort of a pivot off that successful idea to brand ourselves uniquely within the marketplace. I'm going to go for one of your brand builder packages to sort of build out this site in the yoga niche and document it as I go along. But how would you go about sort of analysing the target audience within a niche so you can sort of beat out the competition?
Especially off the start, it really comes down to doing a lot of keyword research. So identifying the keywords in the space that will get the traffic, and will be a low enough competition that you can rank on the first page. That's a big chunk of kind of the research phase, and the kind of combining the market analysis of kind of that what we talked about originally around kind of how it's positioned in the marketplace, and then doing keyword research that fits into that market analysis. So what, to get into the details there, I certainly like to use some of the tools that are out there, such as Longtail Pro, and then I also really like Uber Suggest, it's called, for generating a list of all the Google suggested keywords, and then running those through Longtail Pro or Google Keyword Suggest tool, and getting an idea for where the traffic is in that marketplace, and then using Longtail Pro's keyword competition ranking, or using just looking at the first page for those keywords that we want to go after, and seeing what kind of sites are ranking on the first page.
Okay, now I used to have, a lot of affiliate sites in the past before the Google changes, and I made good income from them. I've had, quite a few Amazon sites that did very well up until when I went sort of full time with Content Champion, and my client work took center stage in that regard. But looking at the keyword research process now, 2016, to build an authority site, digging down into that, what are you doing that's different from people that might have done this process in the past? We're still looking for long tail keywords, or are we looking for a different kind of latent semantic indexing type, thematic keyword range? How many keywords do we need? There's lots that comes out of that, really.
There's a ton that's come out of it. I guess sort of that will be hopefully helpful for to sort of put people at ease. Those are a lot of big words that get thrown around right now. I like to keep it relatively simple. One, it really helps with the systematizing the process. But the big thing that has changed is I don't just create a article called Best Yoga Mat anymore. It's really about creating an article that is useful to the reader and a little bit interesting. So if it's one of those titles that might be able to show up on your Facebook feed as a trending title, that's kind of the type of title that you'd want. It can still be a keyword focused in that it's answering clearly what that searcher's query would be, but it's less about just a bland 500 word article with the title being an exact match of the keyword. It's much more about creating content that truly does answer the searcher's query better than anything else that's out there, and targeting a keyword that or a question that people are searching enough around. So that's numerical analysis on the keyword and the volume and the competition. But then when you go to write it, throw all that out and write for the human that's going to be reading it. Okay,
so you want, on the site, ideally you want a few, pillar posts, really long, really, over sort of 1,000 words, 2,000 words perhaps, and then you can still have some shorter ones to sort of hoover up all the keywords. Or am I thinking about this as sort of, am I 10 years out of date with my analysis of that? How does it work now in terms of that site structure and how you organize the articles within the context of the whole site itself?
Yep, no, still very much in line with that structure. I think the change is that all those additional, the silo structure is still very much the structure that we like to use. So it's that one long, 1,000 to 3,000 word post that covers everything that could possibly need to be covered about that one topic, and it's the best article on the internet for its given topic, and then it links out to the other posts that are in that category. Now, each of those posts, what might be different from kind of the way that you'd be thinking about it is that each of those posts might be going after a keyword, but they're not going to be written specifically for that keyword. They're going to be written with a higher likelihood of being linked to by someone else, and because the articles don't come across as just pure 500 word articles to rank for a keyword. They're titles that will grab people's attention.
Okay, but within the body of the article itself, are we still looking to put those main keywords and as many related, sort of thematically related keywords as possible? Is that the case?
Once I have the topic, and the keyword, we know that we're trying to target that keyword, and so we want to make sure it's in the title. But past that, and this may not be perfect, but it certainly helps make sure that we get what matters the most, and that's a useful article. So what we do is say, here's the keyword we're going after, here's a click-worthy title, and writer, go create the best article you can. Don't worry about the keyword, just go create the best article that you can. And so we make sure the keyword is in the title plus the URL, but then after that it's as well written as it possibly can be, possibly to the detriment of from an SEO standpoint. But if we ask the writer to include it X percentage of time, or in subheadings in the image alt tag, they just get themselves twisted up into a knot, and we get, I think a less high quality article out of it.
Okay, and how many articles do you need, good quality articles, before you launch the site?
25,000 words is ideal, but certainly less than that is fine as well. And so that can translate into, three pillar articles with a handful of articles underneath each of those pillars. Okay.
And then the next thing that really comes out of that, we'll get onto monetization and everything a little bit later, but the branding, your one of your main services is the brand builders service itself. Branding is very important. I know your sites come with, unique logos and things like that. So how important is the look of the website, the usability, and the branding itself to help that whole process of, getting that engagement?
Yeah, quality of a website and quality of a content is measured in a few different ways by the visitor that's coming to it. You don't show up to a job interview in sweatpants. You dress up, you look good, and you convey a message of quality. And that's the same with our sites. So what Brand Builders does is, by both the website creation plus the post being built using a Thrive content editor, so that each post looks really high quality. It's a very inexpensive way of being able to make your content look extremely high quality.
Oh, I'm really glad you said that, because this site that I'm going to use as part of my authority content experiment, I'm going to be using a Thrive theme, just set that up on there. And then obviously you guys, when you do the initial work, can use the Thrive Content Builder and Thrive Leads and everything else. It's just absolutely brilliant, isn't it? It's kind of like a game changer for making authoritative looking websites, isn't it?
Yeah, that whole setup is really good. I really like the Thrive. Yeah, exactly. The Thrive themes plus Thrive content editor plus Thrive Leads, and you got yourself a well optimized machine quickly.
Okay, so look, in the process, we've selected our niche based on the requirements that we've dug down into there a bit. We've done all our keyword research. We've got some really great pillar posts supported by other pieces of content on the site. The site looks fantastic. We've set it up with all of our lead generation, content upgrades, all the sort of things like that. What's the next stage after that? How are we going to start promoting this content so that we can start to see the traffic levels that we need, which can lead on to monetization?
There are hundreds of different link building strategies. Ultimately what it comes down to, and links have sort of a sketchy terms at times out there in the kind of the content world, the SEO world. What it comes down to with a site and how it does in Google is, quality content plus quality links. If you have the more of that you have, and both of those that you have, the better your site will do. That's, every data analysis of Google's results have shown that longer content, higher quality links result in more traffic. So the first thing that needs to be done is some links need to start going to the site. And I don't recommend any one strategy be used exclusively, and what niche you're in will always depend on, it will always change what that right structure is between kind of where you're getting those links from. What I still like to use, and not everyone does, but I still use private blog networks and expired domains to help my sites get ranking initially, but I don't rely on that strategy exclusively.
So we can do, the full gamut of everything. We could do our guest posting. We can also bring in stuff like social media, even some paid traffic as well once we know the site's converting.
Absolutely. I mean, what is recommended is certainly a combination of kind of the blog commenting to introduce yourself to your target sort of marketplace, and then reach out to those people to publish some guest posts. While that is occurring, building up your social following, and at the same time getting a few private blog network links into the mix to start really sort of ramping up your backlink profile and keep your content publishing machine moving. And so the key that I have found, and what I've seen from people who have really had a lot of success at following this plan, is when they have systematically set themselves up for success to do this, week in and week out and week in and week out. You're not going to see, thousands of visitors in the first month. That's just not what happens right now. It's a kind of a 6-month process to really start to see the site moving along. And if you take your foot off the gas for a month of that, you lose your momentum. So you really need to kind of set up the system that'll work for you, and then see it through and give yourself kind of a 6-month timeline.
And one thing that springs to mind coming out of that, that some people who are considering, building an authority site and perhaps following along with my experiment might be confused about. Back in the day, you build your exact match anchor text links, and you could basically put a picture of a kitten in a basket on a page with no text on it. And if you just got tons of links saying kitten in a basket, you'd rank for that term. Obviously now everything's changed, but we're still looking at the fact that even if you have a load of good content and you build just some, neutral brand name links to your site, name of the site, URL, everything else like that, if the keywords you're trying to target on the page are massively competitive, it's still going to take you ages to rank for those keywords, if at all, isn't it?
It definitely takes time and patience to rank. I mean, that's the upside to those people that stick with it, that the barrier to entry is potentially a little bit higher than it used to be, but it's also the downside to people getting started, in that you don't want to set yourself up. If you give yourself a 6-month timeline, you really want to make sure what you do off the start is sound from a sort of a website keyword research positioning standpoint, because you don't want to be sort of working for 6 months on a dog. You want to be having a quality machine that you can build on top of.
You're listening to the Content Champion podcast, showcasing the training and tools you need to become a content marketing champion in your online business.
Okay, and what does your machine look like then? Just a sort of a brief overview, if you would, of the process. Do you have lots of spreadsheets for mapping stuff out? Because I know on your blog, Authority Website Income, you go into lots of great detail about how you map out each stage of continuing with that process, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so from a high level standpoint, it comes down to those the content plus the links, and keeping a system set up that will continually publish those. So depending on the niche, whether you're choosing to publish 1 post a week or 2 posts a week, 4 posts a week, whatever that frequency is, I wouldn't suggest anything less than 1 post a week, and then setting up some kind of backlink campaign that your system that can continually generate some quality links. So whether that's going out and doing podcasts with people in your space, or whether that's going out and doing guest posting or buying backlinks, there's got to be doing something regularly that will be generating those links. And for me, for a lot of my sites, it's typically content one time to 2 times a week, plus links, 1 link a week via private blog network or expired domain, and then aiming at kind of blog commenting plus 1 guest post a week. If I'm doing that for one of my bigger sites as I'm building it out, I've certainly seen success with every time that I've been able to really stick with that for any amount of time.
And when you're building those links, you're building them to each individual piece of pillar content, or you're building a mixture to the homepage and the pillar content, and you're just using your URLs and branded anchor text?
I like having kind of a simple rule for everything, so that I can systematize it and have my team execute it without error. So kind of to keep things simple, I like to have kind of 50% go to the homepage, 50% to an article or pillar post or one of the blog posts. So that's where the links get directed to. And from an anchor text standpoint, I try and not build any exact match. Not that that's optimal, but just because I don't want, somebody to think that they're doing a better job by building more exact match. So I request 0 exact match to get built, and end up at, a third being just a third of the anchor text being just the URL, a third being kind of a phrase match. Sort of where do I find the best yoga mats, kind of with our example, could be the anchor text even. And then a third being just general, buy here, click here, find out more, resource, etc.
Okay, and you mentioned your team there. In my yoga niche site experiment, I'm going to be outsourcing practically everything, because I do a podcast. I have clients like you, sort of a day job, even though it is through my current blog, Content Champion. So I have client work during the day, and then podcast and membership site stuff in the evenings, and then 3 kids and an angry wife if I spend all of my time doing this stuff. So How much do you spend on your content? How much do you spend on your link building and all that stuff?
Sure. So generally it's built up a pretty quality team. So it's taken me a lot of time to get to the team that I have now that can produce the quality content that I'm looking for at the rate that I'm looking to pay. So I'm paying kind of $10 an article for a 750 to 1,000 word article. And that's sort of certainly on the less expensive end of what you're getting right now from a quality writer. So I sort of expect to pay more than that, I would say. And then I'm getting a North American VA sort of outreach specialist to work for kind of $10 an hour and to do the blog commenting plus guest post outreach. And I can have sort of links, really high quality links built for sort of in the $50 to $60 range per link.
Okay, so what's the overall spend on a monthly basis, do you reckon?
About $600 if I'm really putting the gas on the site.
Okay.
So that's kind of 4 posts a week and maybe double kind of what we had described. So kind of when I'm really kind of said, this is my site that I'm building out, my spend on that site will be in the kind of the $600 a month range.
Okay, and none of that matters. We can spend $1 million a month on our site if we're making more than that back from it. So let's start looking at the revenue questions.
Yeah.
How long is it before you put, in this case, I think I'm going to be using, affiliate links and, some sort of AdSense type ad. I don't know if it's going to be AdSense itself. There are other networks I've been looking at as well for monetization. How long is it before you put that on there, or do you have it on from the start?
I put it on from the start. I know there's sort of a discussion around, the monetization is kind of a break to your flywheel. I think that might make sense in the kind of the startup world discussion. I like to have the articles be a step between the person's question and the product being purchased for my Amazon affiliate sites, and certainly kind of in the yoga space as well, so that this is a sort of an educational piece of content that takes them from sort of, inquisitive to educated to then deciding to buy. If that content piece isn't monetized, it's not adding as much value as if it was monetized. So that's the best form of monetization, is where it's, a problem-focused piece of content that drives people to purchase something that they need, that's a natural fit to the article.
Okay, so you mentioned there perhaps got 2 types of content going on. Then you've got the type of content that gets the traffic, and then you've got individual, say, product reviews that convert more highly into revenue.
Yeah. I mean, what it really depends on the niche, but I absolutely agree that we do try and have different types of posts. So some posts will be more targeted towards sort of ranking for a specific keyword. They'll all have kind of a keyword as the sort of the genesis for that post idea, but some will be highly focused on ranking for that keyword, whereas others will just be kind of a little bit more kind of blatant click and link bait.
And let's talk about money, because that's what everyone's listening to this type of podcast, this building this type of branded site for. Okay, we've got our setup costs. We've got, maybe $600 a month, 3, 4, 500 if you're going to be doing some of it yourself. How long, do we carry on with that, having monetized it, before we think, hang on, I might have to knock this on the head because it's a bit of a dog? Or B, how long before you then start seeing a good return on that investment?
So 3 months, you should have an idea, and 6 months, you'll should start to see positive returns. That's what I like to see, and I can kind of give you a recent real life example here that was sort of both the idea of brand builders, and then it also kind of resulted in a little bit of an exit on my end. So in August of last year, I purchased a site from Andrew, who's the person behind Brand Builders. The site was making about $100 a month at the time that I purchased it, so it was set up kind of to the quality that Andrew does builds all his sites. And then I applied my process to it, that kind of the $600 a month process, and quickly ramped that up from $100 a month to $1,000 a month over the space of 3 months. So it had existed for about 3 months before I purchased it at $100 a month, quickly ramped it up to making $1,000 a month. And then this might kind of confuse people a little bit, but then started importing the product and selling it through Amazon and driving all that traffic to my product that I had been importing. And then just sort of last week, I ended up selling that business with a sticker price of about $300K on it.
Wow, that's brilliant. But I mean, in terms of that, certainly gives me a lot of hope and positivity about what I'm going to be doing, and a lot of other people as well listening. But can you do that? That's one type of monetization. Can you do that with AdSense style ads and affiliate links as well, if you start a mailing list as well on the back end?
That's something that it always is highly dependent on the space. But one of Andrew's really high quality skills is that he really digs into both the research, setting up a quality site, and then really creating a funnel that will sort of maximize the value that you can provide to the customer that's coming in the door.
Okay, so that's setting up the emails on the back end as well?
Yeah, emails with a little bit of sales automation to go in with that. Funnels and marketing automation is all the rage, and he certainly got that, the 80-20. He applies the 20% sort of amount of effort that gets 80% of the results of that automation into the site off the start, which is fantastic from a standpoint of getting data quickly as far as what the customers are looking for.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you should be able to work some wonders in the yoga niche then.
I think that's a great niche for this application, because it gives you, what one of my passions right now as far as where I like to take my businesses, but build up that authority site, make money from Amazon, and then start importing the product yourself and kind of merging the two business models of authority sites, affiliated sites, plus Amazon FBA into a kind of a pretty successful package. And certainly the yoga niche has a ton of opportunities in that space.
So, looking at this yoga site that I'm going to start up, is there anything I need to sort of look out for? Because I'm going to be documenting this whole process as we go along, warts and all. So, I don't want to obviously get to 3 months because I've been investing money in it and the return's not there. Can I do this without PBNs? Do I have to use PBN links? Because obviously I'm a content marketing site and I'm trying to sort of use, I don't know, content marketing best practice. But is this something I can get the results from if I don't use PBN links?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, PBNs are not mandatory and for anything, right? It's one more location for backlinks. A strategy that exclusively uses PBNs, I believe, is a bad strategy. A strategy that exclusively uses any other sort of one tactic for getting backlinks is a bad strategy. So it's the best strategy is a combination of sort of every source of high quality backlinks that you can get being applied to your site in a systematic way. And to kind of answer the first part of that question around, what to watch out for, I would say that the key to watch out for is is setting yourself up. You're a busy guy, like you talked about, right? So you have 3 kids, very busy. Set yourself up with a system, and whether it's a system plus a team that can execute the promotion of the site, the content marketing of the site on a very systematic basis, so that that 1 week where you got your top client has you very busy and you're behind in the podcast, the site systems continue to churn away while you're busy in the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. Okay. Final question before we go on to find out where we can find all your content online and your services, etc. You mentioned an exit strategy earlier. What are buyers paying for good, consistently earning sites? Is it 12 times revenue or more than that?
Yeah, quite a bit more than that. When we talk multiple, it's generally on the monthly multiple. So their lower quality sites sell for in the 15 to 20x range on the monthly multiple, and really high quality sites with a long track record are getting up to the 30x range.
Wow, that's inflation for you. It used to be 10 to 12 times monthly revenue, like I'm talking like 5 or 6 years ago or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's been a sort of a maturing of the space, and I think there's also been some people that have been coming into it from a sort of the asset class has been around for long enough that private equity is starting to come into the space as well, and that's all driving up the cost of sites to buy. Okay,
so when you get it to $1,000 a month, something like that, or more, when would you sell?
It really depends on the site. I haven't sold too many of my businesses. It's very personal. I mean, if you're still in a best position to be able to continue to grow it, then hold on to it. If you have other opportunities and you want to free up some capital, then sell it. You're not going to get a premium multiple until you've had it earning what you're sort of looking to sell it for a year. So it's probably going to be 18 months from the time of starting to build the site would be the earliest that I would recommend ever looking to sell a site. Because then you'll hopefully kind of be at that 6-month mark and have a year's worth of decent earnings.
Well, hopefully if everything goes to plan, that'll be a lot of content, a lot of extra podcasts and blog content for me on Content Champion, detailing how all this stuff goes in with my yoga niche site. So just before we move on, it's been a fascinating conversation, John. I really enjoy coming to your site and reading everything there. What sort of package would you recommend I go on, and would you recommend to people who are looking at brand builders? Yeah, so I'd say in your case here, I mean, you are the content champion, right? So I mean, the difference between some of the packages is the amount of content that gets produced. So I'd say that kind of that standard package that creates some of that initial content and also builds out some of the back end, the email funnel setup, kind of that would be the package that would make sense. There's also the less expensive package that's sort of if you want to do it all yourself and cut costs, but you don't want to spend 6 months working on a website that wasn't properly set up. There's the essential package, which kind of does that keyword research for you, make sure you're focused on the keywords that are correct, but doesn't produce as much content and doesn't do all the kind of the email sales funnel setup. And that's a great one to start with for people that are wanting to do all the work themselves and don't want to be wasting that effort on a site that isn't set up for success. Well, as I'm doing this as a sort of experimental example case study, as it were, I think I might just have to go for doing as least work as possible. So that sounds good to me. Okay, remind us where we can find this service, and also tell us about your website as well.
Sure. So yeah, the service is at brandbuilders.io. Partnered with Andrew, who's a perfectionist in every kind of sense of the word, as far as creating some really, really, really high quality sites, and work with him to set up some systems and some strategies around what type of sites to build and how to market them and promote them. And so that's at brandbuilders.io. And then kind of for all my varied online business activities, I talk about that at authoritywebsiteincome.com.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
Fantastic. Right, this is what I call the PS question. Before you go, could you please share one more advanced content marketing tactic we can use right after the show?
So I think anybody that's followed me, and maybe I'm dodging the question here, but anyone that kind of follows Authority Website Income knows that, and with my background being engineering, knows that I'm very much about systems. So I'd say that pick whatever the advanced strategy. I'd say pick whatever strategy that you've had the most success with, and then figure out a way to systematize that. So whether that is setting up a Google document, creating a standard operating procedure to be able to execute it, and then hiring someone in and meeting with them weekly on how they are progressing against the plan that you've laid out for them to continue to execute that content marketing strategy. Figure out what's ever already working in your space and get advanced about being systematic about doing more of it.
Systems and processes sounds like the key to the whole thing, doesn't it? And looking at my experiment again, is this something you can give me some pointers on going forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to kind of jump on, and I have my kind of big spreadsheet for how I go about promoting my sites, and it might be an interesting chat for me to kind of talk through. We open up that spreadsheet for your site, and we talk through kind of how we set that spreadsheet up and how we set the team up to be able to execute the kind of the suggested path in that spreadsheet.
That sounds brilliant. Well, I'd love you to come back on and talk about that once everything's up and running, the site's built, and started to get some initial traction to it. That's a definite yes for that. That sounds brilliant. Okay, John. Well, look, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Been a great call, and all that remains to say is I wish you every success with everything you do in future.
Yeah, thanks, Laws. Thanks for all you do with Content Champion. Always like listening to the podcast. So thank you.
You've been listening to the Content Champion podcast, available at contentchampion.com and on iTunes. Until next time, thanks for listening.